The Rake. The Rake is a creepypasta story about a creature that watches you while you sleep and kills you when you wake. Nobody really knows if the creature exists, whether it is an urban legend or a ghost story. During the summer of 2003, a series of eerie events in the northeastern United States involving a strange, human-like creature briefly captured local media attention before an apparent information blackout was enforced. Almost all online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously erased, leaving little to no intact information. Witnesses recounted their disturbing encounters with the creature of unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extreme fear and discomfort to an almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published accounts are no longer on record, the memories remain vivid and haunting. Many of those involved began a desperate search for answers. By 2006, nearly 24 documents had been collected, dating from the 12th century to the present day and spanning 4 continents. Remarkably, the stories were nearly identical. What follows are brief excerpts from these documents. A suicide note, 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to alleviate any guilt or pain I may have caused through this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him. Once I awoke and felt his presence. Another time I awoke and saw his form. Yet again I awoke and heard his voice, staring into his hollow eyes. I cannot sleep without fearing what I might experience upon waking. I cannot ever wake again. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dearest Lenny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry translated from Spanish, 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. I hear his voice. A mariner's log, 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here again at the request of the Rake. A witness statement, 2006. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. Exhausted after a long day of driving, my husband and I put the kids to bed and retired for the night. At about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I took the opportunity to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he had gotten out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly that his knee almost knocked me off. He then grabbed me and said nothing. As my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw what had caused his strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, was what appeared to be a naked man or a large, hairless dog. Its body was positioned unnaturally, as if it had been hit by a car. Strangely, I was not instantly frightened but more concerned about its condition. I initially assumed we were supposed to help it. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into a fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before his eyes returned to the creature. In a sudden flurry of motion, the creature scrambled around the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing manner along the bed until it was less than a foot from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, just staring at him. Then it placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway, leading to the kids' rooms. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop it before it could hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the bedroom light revealed it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. It turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was severely injured and spoke only once more in her short life. "He is the Rake," she whispered. That night, while rushing our daughter to the hospital, my husband drove our car into a lake. He did not survive. Being a small town, news spread quickly. The police were initially helpful, and the local newspaper showed great interest. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up. For several months, my son and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began searching for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town who had a similar story. We contacted each other and began discussing our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now referred to as the Rake. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to compile a small collection of accounts involving the Rake. None of them provided detailed history or follow-up. One journal contained an entry about the creature within its first 3 pages and never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, only stating that they were ordered to leave by the Rake. That was the log's final entry. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was part of a series of encounters with the same person. Multiple people also mentioned being spoken to, including my daughter. This led us to wonder if the Rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. Every night, for 2 weeks, I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night. Each morning, when I woke up, I would scan through the sounds of me tossing and turning in bed. By the end of the 2nd week, I was going through the recordings when I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the Rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone else listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head make me very upset. I have not seen the Rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I fear that one night I will wake up to see him staring at me.